Hello, everybody, and welcome to Inside Unreal, a weekly show where we learn, explore, and celebrate everything unreal. I'm your host, Martina, and today with me I have Mr. LD, the CCO of Teravision Games.
Hi.
Welcome. Please, how are you?
Great,
Um,
great. A little nervous, to be honest. I think I'm sweating a lot, but yeah, happy to be here.
no, you shouldn't. This is going to be fun. I'm so
Yes.
happy to have you here. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So, yeah, my name is Luis Daniel, but everybody calls me LD. I'm Venezuelan, and I'm, as you said, the creative director and co-founder of Teravision Games. Teravision Games is a game development studio, which was started in Caracas, Venezuela in 2006. And then we moved it to Bogota, Colombia in 2010. The idea of having a studio in Caracas came from my amazing partner, best friend, mentor, Enrique Fuentes, which I know probably he's watching. I'm sure he's watching. Hi, Kike.
Hola, Kike. Hello.
And
We love you.
we love you. And yeah, he has this crazy idea to start a video game studio in Caracas, and I have the even crazy idea of following him. And now we're here. So right now we're in Bogota, Colombia. We are about uh, around 70 people strong right now. Very proud of that. Currently, we build games in Unreal Engine and UEFN. So we're fans of Epic, as you can see. And yeah, like our first 10 years was about um, providing development services for other studios, like making art for them, a little bit of code in a myriad of technologies, right? Small games for the internet. We make games for Disney, Nickelodeon, MTV, basically brands that had companies that had IP and they needed like games to promote those IP.
It's like a service, right? Like we're outsourcing the team's
Yeah, yeah,
talents,
and
right, to develop games, and that's the best way actually to learn, right, with somebody else's money, because you're trying like all these amazing right genres and working with these amazing characters and worlds and everything, and
making short
somebody else
games
is paying for
and
it.
making small short games that you know you can finish and then do the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. That's how we learned how to make games. Then in 2016, we made a studio-wide introspection, learning what people here in the studio wanted to do. Like during the day, they were doing a game for, I don't know, Dora the Explorer or Care Bears, but at night they were playing Dark Souls, you know? So yeah, we came to the realization that, yeah, we want to do console games, we want to do bigger games. And that's the moment in which we made one of the best decisions we have ever made in our professional lives, which is, okay, let's switch to Unreal Engine.
Nice.
And
And
yeah, and we started with a VR game, right? At that moment, VR was starting, and we said, okay, we need to build something. And we figured, well, let's try VR and also Unreal Engine at the same time. Yes, as you can see, we are all about making crazy decisions. And that's when we started with a game that at that moment was called Neon Fury, which is basically a tower defense in first person mixed with a first person shooter, and that evolves in what we launched in 2021, which is Captain Toonhead versus the Punk from Outer Space. Dan, you can put that trailer there. That this is like our first game in Unreal.
Hey, Granny, let Power of the mighty chocolate! Captain Toonhead! Fighting for his
Private Salazar, you have been promoted to captain of this mission.
How did this get here?
I weaponized your grandmother's chancla.
That's a freaking shark! How's that even possible?
There is a madman that we need to stop.
Why so defensive?
I'm going to stop you all by myself.
Right! Oh, please don't forsake us, Angel.
You can call me Captain Toonhead.
Captain Toonhead! Available now!
Oculus was still called
Yeah!
Oculus at that time.
Available now!
That's
Yeah,
insane. That looks like so much fun.
Yeah,
All
thank
the
you.
music
Yeah.
and
This
everything.
is my favorite project, the one I love the most. I have worked in our whole careers. And I love it so much, not only because it's the game in which we prove ourselves that we could build something like this, but also it's a game that it represents purely what we wanted to do. And honestly, we did whatever we wanted to do with it because it is self-funded by us and self-published, so it was all on us, right? Like, well, there is a part from that funding that really helped us that I need to call it out here, which is Epic Mega Grants, which is something we won once this game was very progressed and advanced, and we could show that we could finish it. We won an Epic Mega Grant. Thank you, Epic. You're awesome.
On behalf of Epic, I'm proud to accept the thanks. I don't
Martina,
know.
on behalf of Epic for this Epic Mega Grant, which helped us finish it and help us put it across the finish line. And yeah, we did this with our nails and friends and family, like my wife Monica. She's one of the voices of the game.
Nice.
And my niece Lore, Kike's daughter, she's the voices of the cubes. Save me. That's Lore.
Okay.
And funny, the song that you just listened, Kike, he's the vocalist of that
Oh
song.
my God, that's so cool. I didn't know that.
He composed it with my brother Danny. They two are amazing musicians. Whenever they get together, it's like amazing. And they did that whole song for the animated intro. Yeah.
That's so cool. And it's crazy, right? When you are so used to working under the guidelines of a brand, right? Like sometimes, I don't know, when you are working with IPs, you have actually, right, like these Bibles, these documents that tell you what you can and what you can't do with those characters in those worlds. What are the rules, right? That where you need to be creative, right? Like it's another way of being creative. But then when you're working on your own thing, you can take more risks, right? Like and boy, boy, this game was risky because it's VR, it's Unreal, but then at the same time, it was a completely new market. Like how the audience, how did the players receive it?
Everybody loved it. At that moment, VR was a market was a little small, but I mean, what we were focused was on creating a testament of what we can do, and also prove ourselves that we can do something like this. And it worked because this became our main piece of portfolio to get involved in bigger Unreal games, and that's when we started working on multiplayer games. Like we worked, for example, with Gun in the prototyping and the initial states of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Wow.
And before that, a bunch of other prototypes that didn't came through, but that's also game development, right? You work in a bunch of games, not all of them get published, but you always learn from all dev
Yeah, from
cycles.
everything, and you never know, right? Like what is going to happen. Yesterday, we had our office hour, and they were actually talking about that. I think they were quoting Guillermo del Toro, this Mexican film director from On's Labyrinth and Hellboy series, and they were saying like that, something like that, like you are working on so many projects at the same time, and you never know when it's going to be the time for one of those to come out to actually become something. I think someone asked him something like, "Well, what is going to be your next project?" And he was like, "I really actually don't know. Like I'm working right on several things at the same time, and video game development is a lot of that. And how important is it to spare some of that time on something that belongs to you, that is actually um, something that you are proud to show, because it actually shows everything that you can do, that all the experience and kind of like makes you shine in a different light, right? So maybe it's a way of you investing in yourself to actually get better chances, right? And you were saying you started with this game 2016 and then you released it 2021.
2021, because we were scattered in so many projects, and just whenever we had time, we just put it in the game, until it's done. So
And then that's was how you started then working on multiplayer, right? Like it actually opened you this door.
yes, because then so yeah, we started working on with the gun, and there we met a very special guy, like one of my favorite persons in this industry, and one of my favorite game designers, which is Randy Greenback.
Yeah.
You know Randy, right? I know you do.
Yes, we love Randy.
Randy's amazing. Yeah. So and yeah, we all became friends, and we were fans of each other. Like we were fan of his, and he was fan of our work. And he had this crazy idea that he has been thinking for ages, which is um doing what he did with Friday the 13th, because he's the um executive director of Friday the 13th. He wanted to do a horror asymmetrical multiplayer with Killer Klowns from Outer Space. This, at that moment, obscure movie from 1988. Nobody was talking about making a game. Everybody was thinking about bigger things. I want to make a Lord of the Ring games. I want to make a Marvel game. But Killer Clowns from Outer Space wasn't in the radar, and he had this brilliant idea, like, let's do this. And we worked together in a design. Like I spent so much time with him, tinkering this design, learned so much from him, like absorbing all his experience for Friday and his aspiration of where he wanted to take the genre, and then play a bunch of asymmetrical horror games too, to get a hold of it, using what we learned from Texas Chainsaw, and with that created the concept of Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and then
And
with the
it has
amazing
something very unique, right? Like Killer Clowns is 3 versus 7, right? Like it's weird. What led to that decision?
Randy. Randy led to that decision. So this, what you're seeing here, is the announcement trailer that was put on in Gamescom 2022. Was greatly received in opening night live. By the way, the mastermind behind this trailer is Vernon Frolic. I think he was in this show a few weeks ago.
Yes, we invited him over on one of the pitch it sessions that we host in Epic for Indies. This initiative, we once a month we invite a publisher to give like live feedback to indies that are practicing, like for the first time how to pitch. And he was amazing. He spent like 3 hours giving feedback. Hopefully we will have that recorded right then and edited soon. So everybody can enjoy it. But I didn't know that. That's amazing.
He's in my book, he's like the best marketeer in this industry. I mean, he was the mastermind of where to put clowns in the head of everybody, and having it a surprise, and putting it on opening night live. And that's when we get like the huge boom when we announce that. And we were there in the room, like us guys, like from a studio in Colombia, like they're like, oh, everybody's clapping at their trailer. That was amazing. Love lovely moment on our career. So yeah, we work in this game, and you asked me about the 3 versus 7. So yeah, so Friday 13 was 1 versus 7, right? But that game had a little problem, a little issue that Randy made me aware of, which is sometimes when Jason, when the killer was not very proficient at the game, the matches tend to feel not that great because a lot of responsibilities on that player to create the horror context and the tension on the other 7 players, right? So we figured, okay, we need more than one. We need more than one, and we started with 2 and 7. We've fixated the variable of the victims, and that let's add a second killer, right? Then we
The victims, you just kill them. The survivors, maybe. Give them a chance.
So we had 2 killers, and then we figured, yeah, there is in this natural interaction between players that also happened in Friday 13, which is experimented players tend to invest time in teaching new players how to play. So we figure, okay, so when there are 2 clowns, there are going to be situations when there is one clown teaching the other clown how to play, right? And that will keep the 2 clowns a little occupied and give too much room to the 7 victims. That's where we came for 3, right? Because then you can have this interaction and have a third one hunting the other guy. So that's how we get to 3 versus 7, which is totally out from Randy's sensibilities and the collaborative work with us to get to that idea, which ended up being like, yeah, as you said, very unique for the game. We like to think like we gave something to the asymmetrical horror genre with this, and I hope this is just this starting point for other developers to create more horror asymmetrical games. Hopefully, using something that we put in there.
That's so cool. So I wanted to ask you regarding. So you mentioned you added a third clown, so there could be, like teamwork between the evil guys. Like how can you design, right, this kind of situations, right, to encourage people to play in in collaboration, in co-op experiences, right? Like,
yeah, well, first, I mean, you cannot force players to collaborate, right? I mean, like players need to have autonomy, right? Well, as I learned, I'm just dropping names here, but I need to. Like, I learned from Celia Hodden. She was UX director there at Epic when in the early stages of Fortnite, and I'm her fan. Like, she's my hero.
please, people, take notes.
Celia Hodden. She wrote this amazing book, Gamer's Brain. It's my Bible. I learned so much from that. And she said there is motivation comes from 3 things for players, right? Like autonomy, competence, and relatedness, right? So I bring this up because I'm talking now about autonomy. You cannot force players like you cannot force them to collaborate, right? So they need to have the freedom to do whatever they want within the constraints of the game that you're building, right? But then within those constraints, you build mechanics, right? And in those mechanics, you need to think on about them like opportunities to collaborate, right? But the thing is that you need to think about them as, well, maybe this mechanic is they're going to engage it as a single player with a single clown doing something, right? Like, for example, let's say cocooning a victim, turning that into cotton candy, which is the main thing clowns do in the game, right? You can do that by yourself. If you find a human, point your gun and turn it into a cocoon. But then that mechanic, you got to think how I turn this also an opportunity for collaboration, right? So that's when we added, like, okay, if a second or a third clown try to cocoon the same victim that the first clown is cocooning, we let them, but we just make that process faster, right? Which is the clown team gets rewarded by being more efficient if they collaborate. And in that way, they all feel more competent because they are doing more through the collaboration. And because it's collaborative and they feel part of a group, they feel relatedness with the whole group. That's what keeps them motivated to work as a team, right? But again, that said, that collaboration is part of the gameplay culture that you don't control, and you just can't enable it, but it happens organically and naturally within the game. And also, there's a lot of more of collaborative ways in which players just discover or made up within the game that we didn't plan to. Like, let's accumulate a bunch of cocoons in front of the boat so people don't escape, stuff like that, you know. And it's amazing. I mean, yeah. So yeah. So yeah, you think about those collaborative mechanics. You think about group rewards as a group, but also you give them ways to communicate. That's somewhere where, for example, emotes are super important, right? Being able to react during gameplay, because that gives you a way to communicate to others and say, yeah, you did that good, or no, I didn't like that. And that also creates that sensations of interacting with another human being, when in this case, a clown from outer space. But when you create that context, people start collaborating. If your game is collaborative, because that's the thing, a multiplayer game can be competitive or collaborative, right? Or both, which is the case of Killer Klowns from Outer Space. But yeah, it depends on the game you're building. Each game is unique. So,
but what are like the main differences between designing a PvP, right? Like versus
okay,
like
I mean the obvious one would be like having players like compete for a goal versus players collaborating for the same goal, right? But when you're designing a game like that, I feel, and by the way, I didn't say this, but there is no a formula or an absolute truth about game design and multiplayer. This is just like our experience and what we have done, but everybody needs to find their own way. If there's a formula, everybody will be doing successful games, right? So what I was about to say is when you design a competitive multiplayer, you need to design it in a way that it feels, which is not necessarily true, but feels fair for everybody, for the different sides involved, right? Because people, if they don't feel it's a fair competition, they get too frustrated and they leave. Unless that's overtly the intention of that game, right? When you do a co-op, it needs to feel, I would say, the empowering to the group. Like whenever you engage in actions with the group, you all get better results when you collaborate. So you need to architect mechanics for that, like the example with the cocoons, right?
okay.
And another thing I would say, and the thing is that Killer Clowns has both, right? It's competitive because you have humans versus clowns, but it's also co-op because the humans are collaborating and the clowns are collaborating, right? So because there is competition in there, something we needed to also take in account is in the meta, when you unlock stuff, you unlock new weapons and new powers or new whatever you do to progress, you get in that meta. You need to make sure to because it's competitive, that one unlock is not necessarily stronger than the previous one, giving an unfair edge to the people that unlock that stuff, right? Like I have a better weapon, hence I'm a better player in this game, right? No, I mean you need to
that will break all the balance, right? Like just
break up the balance, and you always need to think that there's always new players coming in, right? There's always new players. It's not like your new players only enter when you announce the game, when you put the game live out there. and then you are growing this game along with your community. No, it's like, yeah, there's people that's going to spend a lot of time, but there's people that are going to come in late, and the game needs to feel fair and fun for everybody, no matter in which point of the game timeline they came in. That's hard because, I mean, naturally people want to get better at the game and want more stuff, and they relate more stuff with more power. That's not necessarily true. You need to give them more options for them to explore, have a wider range of things that they can do with what they unlock. But that doesn't mean they are stronger. They get stronger because they get more skillful, and they get more skillful because they know the systems, right? But not because you gave them a stronger gun, right? Which also gives the chance of the new player, if they are naturally good in your game, they can catch up super quickly, right? Which I think that part is super challenging in a competitive game, because it's naturally we designed to make things stronger, right? It's natural, right? But no, you need to strive for making them different and interesting and varied in time to create more
And
possibilities. So, yeah.
and you were talking about like, well, we have like new people coming in, but then we have people that has been playing, and once they are in, they are never coming out. It's like, how what did you do, or what do you think worked to keep people coming back, right? And spending more time in the
Yeah,
game.
I think, well, first, I mean, nothing replaces having a fun core experience. Like the thing that players are doing over and over, it needs to feel great. It needs to feel solid. It needs to feel natural to them. So it's fun to do it over and over, right? After you have that, then how do you encourage people to do that for a longer amount of time, right? That's when you engage with your metagame, right? You design a metagame around that loop. You think about, okay, how the experience grows for people that is doing this small thing, right? Well, I say it's small, it can be pretty big, but like the smart core loop that they're doing, how can they unlock stuff that makes their experience being refreshed by having new things to do that they weren't doing before? Again, with the challenge of not necessarily making them stronger, right? More to do, right? So you unlock stuff, and they feel the experience is growing more and more and more. It's like, I would say, I'm not a musician, but seeing my brother, I would say, like it's like, okay, I know how to play this song, and I know these three chords, and now I learn a new chord, and now I'm making songs with a fourth chord that I wasn't doing before, right? Same with those mechanics, the thing that you unlock, right? Also, you need to give them objectives and something they can show off, brag about, right? Like, let them show the pride they feel about investing so much time in the game, and that's also ties with the feeling competence thing from Celia's book, right? If I'm a guy, if you have a prestige system in your game that lets you have, I don't know, a crown that only people that reach level 100 has, and now you have that crown, and you're playing matches with that crown, and you see people reacting through the emoting, through the voice chat, with the communication thing, and say, "Oh wow, we're playing with, I don't know, LD 3011 banana," right? And he has a crown. That means he's good. They feel the pride of that, and that give them a sense of, yeah, of competence and being proud of what they have, and that also keep them in a good way in the game. So
And then
yeah, meta game. The game needs to like be intuitive to play, but like maybe hard to master, or it grows in time, because otherwise, if it's always the same, like people get bored at some point. But yeah, they always get bored at the end. That's the thing about games. I mean, it's players are not gonna play forever. They wanna the new thing, right? But yeah, I think what that's one of the things why I feel Fortnite is so good at what they do, because you guys update Fortnite so often. The game grows and changes so much every season that you keep it fresh for everybody, and that's why I feel you are one of the most successful games in multiplayer in history of games, and it's because of that you don't let your game wither, and players appreciate that.
And you're actually, you actually are launching your own games, right? Inside of Fortnite now, like you've been, you gave it a try. How was that transition?
Yes. So yeah, we incurred in UEFN, which probably everybody here knows, but for the ones that don't know, it's Unreal Engine for Fortnite. And it's a version of Unreal Engine that lets you build games within Fortnite, and you distribute it within Fortnite, right? And it's been
So
amazing.
everybody that has Fortnite in any kind of device, right? Like it doesn't matter if it's a console, PC, mobile device, whatever Fortnite is, your game is there, right? Like
Your game
inside of Fortnite. That's insane, right? Like you don't need to become a Switch developer, PlayStation, right? Like authorized, certified developer, right? Like like your game is already there.
It's amazing, and you have access to this huge community of players and putting a game for them. They need to like it though, right? It needs to be a good game for you to be successful. But for you to,
yes, you're competing with Fortnite too, right? Like that's the other the tricky part, right? But you get to try. That's the good part, right?
That's true. That's true. But yeah, I think you have made a great job of making it like fair for everybody with the discovery algorithm and how you showcase others' experience there, because your game is, you can see your thumbnail next to the battle royale. It's there, and if your game is retaining well, and if it's good and people is picking it up, it bubbles up and it's there. Everybody sees it, right? So yeah, right now we're working both in Unreal Engine games and in UEFN, and we have had a blast with UEFN. As game developers, we love the access that we have for Fortnite core mechanics. Like, I mean, comparing with Killer Klowns, not having the need to code or assemble our own gunplay, like it's there. Locomotion, it's fully there, and you can use that to create your own game. Me as a game designer, that's like the ultimate fun. It's like I don't need to focus on the ancillary things that I need to build to create my game. Like in Clowns, we spend so much time working on opening and closing doors. When I need to build a 3 versus 7 multiplayer game that works, but we need to invest a lot of time indoors. Here, door. It's a device.
The drag and drop, right? Like just
it's there. You have a door that works beautifully. You have gunplay, and you have all these types of weapons, and you have amazing locomotion, and then you focus on what makes your game unique using these things, right? Which, being UEFN and an incipient technology, is still like it has strong boundaries of what you can do. Those boundaries are expanding with every update.
Yes, every day. It's insane.
It's insane how fast you guys are progressing with that. But still, as a game designer, I love those boundaries. I love to have very clear limits in which to design, because it keeps me focused. I feel like, constraints are where creativity flourishes the most, because you are not thinking about all the infinite possibilities that are around, but what you can do with this, right? It's like I'm a painter, and I only have this space to do a painting, right? And that has forced us to, and allow us to be like super precise on the decisions that we had made, which have led us to create Havoc Hotel, which is the shirt I have on, the game that we have there. And we like to think it has been a success. It definitely has been a success for us.
Yes, please.
In the platform. And
it's been doing amazing. And actually, was one of the nominees for the best Fortnite game in the Game Awards. Congratulations about that.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah, that was
so
fun.
cool.
Yeah, right now here you're looking at the trailer for Havoc Hotel 3. So we already have launched 3 of them. Yeah, we were super proud of that. So for the ones who have not played it, Havoc Hotel it's like a roguelite around the gunplay mechanics from Fortnite. Uh, it's fully co-op. So we went co-op this time. Why we decide for co-op instead of versus? It's also learning from Celia. I never forget that she mentioned to me when I met her. She came here to Colombia too, and I had the
Nice.
fortune to meet her. She told me that even though competition is a strong motivator for players to play, and we all know that because competition has been the backbone of games since the dawn of time, right? Apparently, collaboration is even stronger, right? Because you feel the relatedness with others and doing a thing together. And that, I'm sorry to divert, but that's why I think team sports is so, I mean, it's like the most successful games in history, right? Because I feel when when somebody wins a soccer, not soccer, football match. No, I'm not gonna say
Nice.
soccer.
Thank you for that.
Football.
For people that don't know that, I'm Argentinian, so we call it football. That's its name.
So when a team wins a football match, I think the biggest pleasure, the biggest pride doesn't come from beating the other team, feels with what they have achieved with their own team, right? That's why when you guys win the World Cup, right? uh, it's not about showing it to the people that lost. It's about you all hugging it and kissing it, and
Yes, it was
yeah, we got
5
it
million
together.
people on the street. It was amazing. It was just a celebration, like nationwide. We were like so happy and yes, and so proud, right? As you said, it felt like a collective um effort, you
And
know.
it's a strong thing that went even beyond the realms of the specific team that played. Because I mean, the guy with the beer and the Argentinian flag in the street, he didn't play the game, but he feels like he won too, which is a beautiful feeling, and that only comes from. It's not the competitive part. Is that we are all in this part, right? So yeah, it's stronger. So following that, we created Havoc Hotel, and we wanted to do a co-op, a co-op experience in which players could like relate with each other and go through a very difficult journey battling NPCs. Oh, you have the cup there. See, you have it. And that's the real one, right? Like you
Yes,
guys
the
in
gold one, yes.
Argentina, you like alternated between all the citizens and have it
That's what we do in Argentina. Yes,
for a couple
we
days,
have
right?
to take care of it for a week and then we pass it to the
You pass
next.
it to the next one. Yeah.
No, but I understand what you are saying, right? Like it feels like, well, maybe one of those players is the one that scores the goal, right? But then it's like it's a team effort how he got to that to that point, and not just in that minute during that match, right? That converted into a goal, but then like all the training, right? Like everything that happened for us, it was like 30 years of suffering, right? Just to get Messi to yes to have that cup in his hands. It's actually you can also play with him in Fortnite. It was a lot of work for the Latinos inside of Epic to make that happen. But we have our heroes. We have Messi and El Chapulín Colorado also.
We do. That's amazing.
Inside of Fortnite.
Amazing.
Sorry for diverse, but
No, it's a
it's
great
very
diversion.
powerful advice. I think that what you are saying. Multiplayer is complicated. What do you think? Like after designing for UEFN and for games like Killer Klowns, right? Like, what are the the key advices that you would give someone that is designing a multiplayer game? Like, what are the foundational principles that you consider, well, this is good game design, right? You were talking about giving autonomy, giving chances for players to collaborate together, and suddenly being some sort of like rewarded in some sort of way. Any other ideas, any other recommendations that you feel are good game design tips?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hold any truth about game design, but what I feel it's a multiplayer game, right? So it's about players interacting with each other in the same system, in the same game, right? So first you need to think about those mechanics, right? Like independent. I mean, you always have competition, you always can have collaboration. Think about those. How I'm going to enable players to compete, how I'm going to enable players to collaborate. But also, another thing we learned, you also need to anticipate how players will grieve other players, how they're going to make their life miserable. And you need to anticipate that and prevent and try to prevent that. The players are the most creative persons in the
Life
world, so
finds
they
a
will find a
way,
way.
like they will
They'll
always
find a way.
manage.
They'll find a way to make other players miserable if they want to. But still, you need to anticipate that, because if you're not aware of that as a game designer and you just trust everybody's gonna play your game as you think they should play it, man, a lot of griefing can kill a community because people get frustrated and abandon a game, right? So you need to think about that. So that would be an advice there. The other one is, after you have your mechanics, then think about player awareness, multiplayer awareness, in the way that when you play a multiplayer game, you don't want it to feel like a single player game, right? Sometimes you have a big map, like in Battle Royale, it's a big map, right? But the Fortnite developers made players aware that stuff is happening more than you see, and happening because of other players are there. Like, you get these notifications like player A eliminated player X, right? So you know those things are happening. You get notifications that fires are being shot in that direction, east. You get the yellow rings saying there is a player somewhere within this area, right? In your minimap, right? And you hear the sound of sound shots in far away, and all of that, even though when you're walking, exploring by yourself in a lonely part of the map, you're aware there is stuff that is happening in that map that reminds you this is a multiplayer game. There's other stuff happening. You are not the center of you're the center of the camera and the controller you're using, but there are other stuff happening. And that's super important in multiplayer. You need to make players aware that there's more stuff happening than what the specific player is doing, and that doesn't happen by itself. You need to architect that. That would be another advice for that. And part of that is enabling communication features, right? Like emotes, chat, voice chat, or whatever works for your game for that. But apart from that, oh no, yeah, there's one more. As you said, as you mentioned, retention. Retention is super important in multiplayer because you need a critical mass of players for your game to work. If you have a huge match like Battle Royale, which are 100 people, you need to make sure when somebody want to play, they find another other 99 people to play. And not all your players are going to be playing at the same time.
Especially when you are starting out, right? Like, how does it look when you are, your island? Because I know that the big success for you guys was a surprise, right? But you were trying with an island before, right? You had like the Havoc Hotel one, and that's where you tried and you actually like tested like different ideas. Like, I remember you guys saying like, well, every 2 weeks we are like trying something new. It was like it was a really, really interesting process to watch, and like how do you make it filled with other players, right? Like, when is it like you immediately have people to play with? Do you use like bots? Like, how do you solve the multiplayer situation?
Yeah. Well, actually, Havoc Hotel 1 was the ninth game we built in UEFN. and we were making one game a week. We just said that, like, arbitrarily, we put that constraint on ourselves, one game a week, while we understand this technology, forcing us to go through the fast development cycle that we discussed at the beginning of this talk.
Fail faster, right? Kind of mentality,
Fail
right? Like
fast.
we need to learn from our mistakes. Let's have a lot of mistakes, as many as we can, right?
Let's trip, let's break things, let's fail. And yeah, Havoc Hotel 1 was the ninth game we built, and the first one that we start seeing, there is more than 0 players here. Okay. And something we did in that game, because we learned that with the previous eight games, that it was hard to retain players, or we didn't achieve it. It was hard for us. Let's build. We challenge ourselves to build an experience that allowed multiplayer, in this case co-op, but the experience needed to work with only one player. The game needed to be fun with one player. It's more fun if there are 4 of them, but it needs to be fun with one. So we decided for that single player to have fun in our roguelike, right? And that's where we work with the NPCs, their behavior, setting the right progressive increase of difficulty as you progress. Then the reward of coming back, unlocking more stuff, and going further. And when you design for one player but expecting more than one, if you retain that one, then you increase the possibilities for the 2 players to overlap. And then the game is a little more fun for those 2. And maybe they stay longer. And then maybe the third one happens. And that's, I think, what snowballed the little success we have there with Havoc Hotel 1. And that's the foundation that then we expanded for Havoc Hotel 2, which, by the way, we went all in and spent double time of what we spent in Havoc Hotel 1, and we had 4 weeks. Can you imagine that? 4 weeks to build a
4
game.
weeks. And how many people on the chat, please leave all your questions there. We are going to try and read them all, but they're actually asking. So it was 4 weeks for Hotel 2, but how many people from your team were assigned to those shorter games, right? Like the first 9 games, how many people worked on that?
For the first 9 games, even though we are a 70 head studio, most of them are working in Unreal Engine projects. We're working on a VR game right now. And for us, UEFN was an experiment that we needed to do out of necessity, because the industry was super bad in 2023 and 2024, still recovering right now.
And people, sorry, we are talking about last August, right? Like this skyrocket. I remember talking to you guys in Gamescom, and you were kind of like, okay, we are trying, right? Like this is super hard. And then meeting you at Unreal Fest in Seattle, and it was a different conversation. It was like 2 months, right? Like from September to October. And
yeah,
it was a different phase, on Kikes, right? Like it's just
2 months and no ulcers. Yeah, it's like we were healed by UEFN, because we saved the company with Havoc Hotel. We were going down because we didn't have enough, as most studios during that time. It's super hard to find new projects. We were done with our mandate in Killer Klowns, and we were shielded while building Killer Klowns. We weren't fully aware of what's happening out there. Then we finished Killer Klowns. It was like, let's find a new project. Of course, we're on the top of the world. We work in Killer Klowns. It's like, oh no, there are no projects. Where's everybody?
No, it's brutal. Like it's been
terrible
the last 2 years, like especially after the pandemic, right, where everything was like expanding and growing, and now it feels like it's been. I think now it's better, but the last 2 years,
it's getting better.
It was shrinking like crazy, right?
So no projects, and we didn't know what to do. 70 people studio. Yeah, we have an Unreal VR game which we are working in, Real Engine.
Just a note: when people say like, "Oh, but these guys, they are like 70 people," it's not it's like 70. You can grow to 70 people when you have like a big project coming in and kind of like paying the bills. But then it's like you're working, I suppose, right, with a publisher, with someone that is funding that initiative. But then when you are doing Havoc Hotel, that's your money, that's your time, that's you, right? Like that's where the indie part comes in, because it's like 5 people from the team. It's not the 70 people working on
Correct.
Havoc Hotel 1, right?
Correct. And also the people that is working in the VR game, yeah, it's not like we are making money during production. We are building the game with that money, right? So it's like we didn't have enough. That's when we started with UEFN. And to answer the question, we started with, I think we started with between 3 and 5 people at the beginning, like understanding it and doing like quick games in a week, learning from the successful games in UEFN and trying to replicate them just to understand how to build one of those. And we were not successful at any of them. Then after we understood the technology, we said, okay, now let's build something we want to build. Let's stop copying other games, and now let's build something we want to build. And
You were
that's
not
when
copying, you were paying homage. You were learning
It's
from the
true.
people that learned before you.
Learning from our references, which is true. No, and I'm glad you made that correction, because it's not that we are trying to steal anybody's success. We just want to learn from other people, right?
That's
And
how
how do we
we,
learn?
as humans, learn, like just to speak, right? Or walk. It's imitation, right? It's so hard to get it right, actually. So
Yeah. And when I say copy, I meant it in a way like when you copy a drawing, right? Like when you're learning how to draw and you copy a Raphael drawing, is you're trying to
and
understand.
I mean one of the Ninja Turtles, right? Like that's that's a kind of
I
Raphael
needed to mention
drawing.
Ninja Turtles. As you can see, I have many Ninja Turtles around. So yeah. So yeah, we wanted to build something about something that we really wanted to do, and at that moment, well, Kike was Kike's gonna get mentioned a lot, because I mean he's basically the half of my brain of how I create games. Like I'm the creative director of the studio, but this is a creative partnership. It's like both of us are always involved in all the games that do here. And at that moment, Kike was obsessed with Hades. He was playing Hades in a very toxic manner, like all day, all time.
No.
And,
He has
and
a family.
he was every moment he has free, he played Hades, and the other moments he had free, he was telling me about Hades. Dude, you're gonna play this because of this, and play this, and play this, and because of this, and and well, I was a little busy working on other games. Yeah, I'll play Kikis. I promise I'll play it. And I arrive a little late, but because he's so persistent and resilient about me not playing what he wanted me to play, until I'll play it, and I say, "Oh, this is good," and then I got addicted, and then we just spent so much time toxically talking about Hades, the two of us, and and that's where we got the idea of doing, let's do a roguelike in UEFN using the mechanics. And we use that reference to then decide in strategic ways how to expand what we think we got with Havoc Hotel 1, and that's where Havoc Hotel 2 came in. So yeah, in Havoc Hotel 2, we didn't only increase the time, we did it in 4 weeks, but we also did it with 15 people, probably, right? So that also helped. But yeah, it's like, as at a studio, we made strategic decisions and invested where we see the value. It's not like, let's create a UEFN game with 15 people at once and it's gonna be great. No. It's we think about it. We whenever we create any game, no matter the platform, we always see what we're good at as a team, what we can deliver to, design for that team, right? See what we believe, because you're never certain, an opportunity in the market, right? Like we didn't see roguelites succeeding at UEFN, so we thought, okay, there's a space here. and something that we love to build, right? Which is also, I'm going to connect with your previous question, would be one of my advice when you design a multiplayer game or any game whatsoever. In my experience, it's important to create something that you would love to play, so you actually play it. I cannot count the hours I have played Havoc Hotel, and how that has been one of the pivotal tools that I have had to better the experience. Because how can you expect as a designer to know how a player feels after they have invested 100 hours in your games if you haven't invested 100 hours in your game?
Yeah.
And to be able to spend 100 hours in your game, you better like that game, because otherwise you're not going to play it. So you're not going to know. So that would be one of my other advices. Play your game and build something that you love, because you need to play the bleep out of it to make sure.
Yes, and that's the cool part also about I think UEFN, and maybe it's weird coming from me because I work at this company, but I used to be an indie developer myself. That's actually how we met with the Teravision team, and it was very hard to get feedback from people that didn't at least liked you, right? Like when we were making a game and developing it, it was us playing it, and then maybe our friends. So they were just being just nice, like to actually have an audience, to actually, like spend 2 weeks on something and actually getting feedback from the players, right? Like how did you handle the community, right? And how did you get them like involved in the production process, like that's does it influence your design
For
at
sure, Martin.
any moment?
For sure, for sure. I'll keep answering that same question about advice, but this is another advice, which is love your players, love your community. They are your best allies for making a good experience. You will never, as a developer, will be able, even though if you love your game and you play by yourself at nights and during weekends, you will never spend as many hours as your whole community, as a group, as a collective, in your game. So it's important to create community around your game, enable that discussion, enable a bridge between them and you. Learn about their pain points, hear their feedback, hear their ideas. It's no longer your game while it's out there. It's their
Yes.
game. They love it and they hate it sometimes, but hate is another version of love, right? So because the most of it would be indifference, right? If they don't like it. But if they hate it, it's because they love something from it. They would like it to see it be bettered, right? So it's important for you to create those channels. So in our case, we create a Discord a server. So we have a community there. We let people know about this Discord through the island, because we have a leaderboard and people use the Discord to a leaderboard that we handle manually. It's a little bit of a headache, but it's the only option we have right now. And people put their scores through our Discord server. That creates the incentive to join the community, and then they stay and talk and create friendships and look for other people to play in co-op and all that. And that gave us a window to what they think. We created a forum with bug reports and for gameplay suggestions and for memes, of course. I mean, we learned about what they love and we try to cater to them, make the experience better to them. It's not longer what I like as a game designer. It's about what they like, but using my game design criteria to distill the problems from their feedback. If you have a player shouting to you about add a bazooka, that doesn't necessarily is the best solution. You need to have the temper to distance yourself from the specific suggestion and distill the problem, because maybe the problem is that, I don't know, the empowerment progression system is not steep enough, and players' power is not growing at the pace that it should, compared to how enemies are getting more difficult. So maybe it's about tuning, let me add more damage at this point of the game, stuff like that, rather than adding a bazooka that might break
The balance of the game. Yes, it's not
balance
what
of
they
the-
want, it's what they need, right? Like that's a song from the Rolling Stones.
It's not what they want, it's what they need, like the Rolling Stones said. Yeah.
That's nice. And
So-
did you guys run into any issues like talking about, right, how people discovered you, how they got involved, how did they give you feedback? Did you, I don't know, find yourself into that? This is a question from the audience. Any
Issues.
specific struggle?
Yeah, issues with the community. Yes, I mean it's natural when you put a bunch of strangers in the same room talking with different, not only different languages, but the way of expressing things and different backgrounds. There's gonna be a few fights here and there, right? So yeah, I mean, don't underestimate the power of a community manager. They are super, super important. David, we love you. David right now is our community manager. He's doing an amazing job. His name is Ryu in Discord, and he's the one talking to everybody, diffusing fights, make sure everything is positive, and enabling people becoming friends and not letting them become enemies, and that's important. That's important because there is a lot of people that it's lonely out there, right? The world is a lonely place, and these communities sometimes is the only social outlets that some people has, right? So you never know how important your gamer community could be for a specific individual. So it's a responsibility to make sure that those communities are a safe place for everybody, and that's where you can do a good community manager. It's everything, right? So yeah, we have had problems, but we have learned how to handle that through putting resources and help and effort into making the Havoc Hotel community being a safe place for everybody. Yeah.
Something I was thinking about is like, well, we have the Epic for Indies initiative. It's you can find it on the EDC, and it's funny how we are announcing it, right, and telling the story that it's like, well, this is to help indie developers, right? Like anyone that is working on their game that maybe have no resources to like maybe they're wearing like different hats, right? So they can't afford to have someone like a community manager, or can't afford to have someone that is doing the marketing or the press of your game, right? Like you are actually doing all of these things besides the actual game, right? Like besides the coding or the art, right? Like the actual design of that game. So I found it very, very cute sometimes when I got the chance to interact with UEFN creators, and they are struggling with the same problems, right? Like they are struggling with discoverability, right? Like how do you make people learn that your game even exists, like or how to find you, or how do you talk to the press or with influencers, people that are playing games online and maybe, I don't know, can help you, boost the amount of players, right, that go into your direction. And it was nice because they were kind of like telling me like, well, but we have these issues that nobody else has, and it's like that's exactly what any other indie developer in the world is going through. The difference is the platform, right? So in your experience, having developed games like the traditional way, let's call it, right, with Unreal and just launching it on PC, on consoles, like going through the one step-by-step way of launching a game versus UEFN. What do you think actually work or works the same or it's different, right? When you are launching a regular game, let's call it, versus launching a game inside of Fortnite.
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge is the same because at the end, the challenge is to making a good game that attract people and make them play it. Concerning the development cycle, as I mentioned before, the miracle of being able to iterate mechanics that used to take us weeks or months in hours or days, me as a game designer, help us focus so much, laser focus on the important things of your experience, because you tend to dilate your attention when it takes 3 months to test something. It's like what I was trying to prove with this, but right now, in hours, keeps you sharp, keeps you focused, and but you need to be disciplined about that. Like, don't let your game over creep features because that's on you, right? But I think that one of the main difference from the perspective of creating a game, right? Like you can in UEFN versus Unreal Engine is the fast iteration, and it's so fun. It's one of the things I love the most about this, being able to test ideas so quick and having a way to put it on the market so quickly and so smoothly and by yourself and learning from that. That's one of the reasons why Enrique put us to let's just create a game a week. It's just to force us through the cycle, understand what works, what we didn't expect success in any of those first games, but it forced us to understand the pipeline, put it out there, understand that, oh, I cannot do this in the thumbnail. This didn't work with that. Oh, these are the limitations of what I can build with this or that, right? So it's I think it's the same, but in a compressed and a more autonomous way for people. So I think UEFN is great for indies because of that. You can put a multiplayer game out there without worrying about server costs.
Yeah.
Server costs,
Yes.
like
I knew you were going to say it.
wow. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, when you design outside, you need to take a multiplayer game out of this, and you need to think, okay, I need to design to make sure the load of the server is no big because if this thing blows up, it's gonna be super expensive, and that's gonna eat from all your
Yes,
profit.
that's
and
actually a
then
problem, right? Like we were talking about that with one of our guests a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, what if it blows up and then it eats
success
you
can be
up?
a huge
It's like
problem.
you can't afford it. You can't afford to go big.
You
It's
can have a
insane.
super successful game that just self-ate its own profits and you're not in debt because you cannot pay for servers, right? So it's like, wow. In UFN, you don't need to worry about that because you rely on the amazing infrastructure that Fortnite has, right? And it's like magic. It's like you set your island and you have 15 players playing on the same match, and the matchmaking happen by itself. It's like I can focus on the experience and not worry about that, and that's everything, right? So yeah. Considering about not having the resources, for example, for having a community manager, we didn't either. Like, yeah, we are a 70 people studio, but again, in the UEFN part, we are absolute indies. Like, we didn't have. I was the community manager when we started. People were talking. I still have direct messages from our players, like reporting a bug to me, and I gave it to the engineer, like there is a bug here, right? We have a community manager now because we were lucky to get this success with Havoc Hotel, and now we can afford that, right? But the good thing about me being a community manager is like now I understand the problem, we understand what we're looking for, right? So it's important for you as an indie developer to go through all the avenues and all the aspects that you need to go through to putting a game out there, because then on success you know exactly the help you need to then expand
True.
your success strategically, right?
Yes, and not just the kind of help, like the help your community needs, right? Like maybe that makes it completely specific and different from other games' communities. And
All
then
games
like
are a universe and super different. It's like people. I mean, games and teams, they're all like super unique. So yeah, you need to understand it fully if you want it to succeed. Yeah.
And we were talking about discoverability, right? Like you said, like, well, we launched the game and suddenly we had like 15 people playing, right? Like that's a miracle. Like how when you're launching your game and you're like launching your game and I don't know, another 50 games are being launched at the same time, the same day as you when you are going to other platforms, right? Especially on mobile or PC platforms. And it's kind of like you worked so hard for so long, and then your whole strategy is right, like crossing your fingers and wishing for the best. That's
Lighting a candle. Yeah.
That's also right, like a problem. Like
Hard.
how did you guys manage to be found inside of UEFN?
Yeah,
Did you
I
went
think
to
that
traditional press, like
no.
those players are reading articles online, or I don't know?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, being fully honest, we did zero efforts and we spent $0 on marketing or any PR or anything, right? We were just at that point discovering how good the discovery algorithm is. We don't know how the discovery algorithm works. We don't know. I don't think we all speculate how it works. What we have learned so far is that if you have a game that retains players, even if just a few, retain them for over 40 minutes, the discovery algorithm start paying attention and it's going to put you up front, right? So I think, and I also love that from UEFN, which empowers the developers to focus on creating a good game. I think that's I know that some people probably hear this like that's the advice, create a good game, but yeah, in this case I think is true because
it's the hardest part to make something that's actual fun, right? Like
yeah, and do it in steps. I mean, it's not like our first game was a success. I mean, we create a game, learn from it, use those learning in the next one, use those learnings in the next one. The first Havoc Hotel, I mean, compare the players of the Havoc Hotel. Havoc Hotel 1 right now has, I don't know, 200 players, but Havoc Hotel 2 right now has, I don't know, 2,000 players, and Havoc Hotel 3, 3,000. I don't know. I'm not that specific, but it's architected that it's not a surprise. I mean, we really put time in understanding what worked and how we amplified it in the next, and it's an iterative process, right? That from the outside feels like a one-off, right? Like, oh, you did it, right? Like, no, it's a
not out of the blue. It's the consequence of a
not
lot of
out of
time, and
blue.
right, like
It's not. You put effort and attention to it and learn from your players and see all the wonderful metrics that Epic is providing you behind your games in your creator portal. You see, okay, how long people is staying in your game, understand their behavior. You have the telemetry devices to you got to put time and attention to it and use your there's never a certainty, but there is information that you can try to use and architect that success, which for us in Fortnite might feel like out of the blue and one day, but it's as we always discuss here internally, it's an 18 now turning 19-year
yeah.
success because we put everything we have learned in our whole career into Havoc
Yeah, it took
Hotel.
us 19 years to get here, right? Like to this place. It's
To
it's not
have
just Fortnite, it's everything that happened
not
before.
Fortnite. It's not only Fortnite. It's knowing when to cut a mechanic that is not working. It's knowing when you're building something that you might not be able to build and have the gut to say, this is not the important thing that we wanted to do. Let's do that. Let me give you an example. For Havoc, Havoc Hotel 2, we were doubling down in the Hades reference, right? So one of the things you will notice is super different from Havoc Hotel 2 and Hades is that our map is not being generated procedurally. The map doesn't change. It's static, right? Of course, we thought about having that in the game. And we tried to build it, but we were in week 3 and we had our deadline in week 4 and we said, We're not gonna be able to do this. And then we figure, okay, let's have an static map, but let's have it being an interesting one, being fun. Let's focus that time instead of making procedurally, making it fun. And it worked. And that ended up being one of the best decisions of Havoc Hotel. Because players in time learned the level to extent or similar to when they learn a song
like
in Guitar Hero, right? And that allowed them to then become teachers to other players or just being
yes, to come back to beat themselves, right? Like to make a better.
and and show their skill in this very difficult game, showing other players this is how I play, and that make it also sticky, and that also enable the existence of Havoc Hotel 3. Because if the map were procedural in Havoc Hotel 2, maybe we wouldn't even consider making Havoc Hotel 3, because for us, Havoc Hotel 3 is another harder song in our Guitar Hero, which is Havoc Hotel, right? So, and we were able to make that decision and learn from it and go with it because we had the professional maturity to not get stuck in that feature that we thought was critical, which is the procedural level, right? And go with the flow of what we were building, be water, which is something that Kicks has always taught me with our shared love of Bruce Lee, like be water. It's not it's in game development. It's true. You need to pay attention of what you have in front of you and adapt and make the best decision to that context. Because building the game is not about building exactly your initial vision you had for it, but letting you discover the game through the process, letting the game talk to you while you play it, understanding what the game needs to be better, and adapt your design to your new learnings every day. As Kike always say, today is the dumbest day of the rest of the project because you learn
Nice.
every day. You learn every day. So yeah, it's I don't remember what's the question I was
No,
answering,
the question was
but-
something different. It's like if you had any advice on discoverability, right? So when you're launching a traditional game, let's call it, they're not traditional, but when you are going to the traditional platforms to launch a game, you can Killer Klowns, right? Like you went to a big event and you show your trailer. You went to the press during Gamescom and had all these interviews. Then I don't know, maybe. You I don't know, you have a marketing agency, right? Like having some sort of advertising campaign around Killer Klowns, right? And I don't know, targeting people from the 80s, right? Like the ones that grew up during the 80s, and we can actually like feel nostalgic about the Killer Klowns from Outerspace. But then when you're working in Fortnite, right? Like this is its own ecosystem, right? So how did you get to people to notice your game there?
Yeah, so build to retain was that was the thing that I
Mhm.
said. The other thing, pay attention to the tags that you put in your game. You have 4 to choose. Think about them, right? Like for example, if you would imagine player versus player or combat in UEFN, because it's the core thing of Fortnite, they are super saturated genres or tags within the discovery algorithm. So it's super hard to compete on those. So if you're starting, I would suggest don't go for those. Try to find a tag or a genre that maybe was not super successful, give you a chance of bubbling up.
And not
that's
successful,
what we
but
would do.
popular, right? Like maybe it's like less, less people are using
That's
it.
a better
Doesn't mean
word.
that there are a lot of people playing there, right?
That's a better word. Yeah, thank you for that. So yeah. Where you don't find a niche there, when you don't see a lot of game with a lot of player, because that means that part is already it's already taken. I mean, those games are so good at retaining that the discovery algorithm always pop them up, and your game is gonna it's gonna find it difficult to be up there. But if you find another genre that is maybe it's not that competed, it's a good place to start because you have a better chance to maybe become the flagship of that genre. And once you become the flagship of that genre, then you can build a community, and now you build games around that, which is what happened to us with Roguelike. Roguelike was dead when we launched Havoc Hotel. Like nobody there. We weren't the first roguelike in UEFN, but we were the first one that succeeded, and that helped us create a step of success within that space. So I would say that's another important one. Like pay attention, where do you launch within that ecosystem, right? And also learn the language, learn the language of the Fortnite audience. What do they like? What are the thumbnails they go to? There isn't a specific language there that it's new. It's new for everybody. Like traditional marketing doesn't work within UEFN or any user-generated content games in any platform. It's their own thing. It's the thing everybody's trying to understand, to crack. But I don't think if they ever understand it, because it's as free as the internet is. It's everything at once. But they have their own language, so learn the language and try to speak to them, and maybe that helps you like
that's the thing, right? Like the OG creators were players themselves, right? So they already had that language from the Fortnite ecosystem, right? And what they liked and what they loved, it was what they were working with the tools that they already owned, like already knew. So sometimes when you are an outsider, let's call it like a traditional indie developer, like going into this this ecosystem is like, well, as you were saying, right? Like you need to learn also that, right? Like where it's coming from, what kind of games also are there, right? Because it's the audience that created it. Not all of them have a background in game development, right? Like that's insane. I met these super amazing devs, and some of them were teachers or were working like selling cars, right? And then suddenly they started like building these islands and trying things out just to play with their friends, and became super successful and decided to make like this career change and start working into game development. And they were saying things like, well, now I need more players, right? Or I need funding to grow my team to make it more professional. Like, how do I hire someone? How do I organize a team that is working from different parts of the world? Or I don't know, now I'm making money. I need a company, right? Like I need an accountant. Like I have all these problems, and those are indie problems. Those are the good problems that you have when you are actually succeeding in the industry, right? When you made a game that people actually wants to play. I was thinking, did you guys went to talk to like people on like streamers, like people on Twitch that played your game live? Like, did you find someone like that to give it more visibility, or they?
We haven't. I mean, we didn't talk to any. We didn't know even who to talk to. Like, we did. I mean, this is a new world for us. Like, we just came in. The first people that welcome us into this UEFN thing was other creators. Fode, those guys. Wow, amazing! I remember we met in a GDC, and we didn't have any. We were struggling in that GDC. We were trying to pitch a game, and we didn't succeed, and we didn't have an office to meet with, and we met with them, and we just sat on the floor, and they just so generously gave us like all the knowledge about the UEFN. And at that point, we didn't even had Havoc Hotel 1. We're just telling them we're building a game a week. We don't know what we're doing. What are your biggest advice? And we learned a lot from them. And now they're like our besties in the UEFN ecosystem. So I think talk to other people, learn from them. I mean, don't. I would suggest don't focus on traditional ways of putting games out there, because this is a whole new universe, whole new world. Learn from other developers. This is a super welcoming community. Come to real fast, meet everybody. Everybody's super friendly. And yeah, focus on creating your own thing and become a player. You need to become a Fortnite player, become one of the community, learn the language, play other islands, play a lot. I'm always playing other islands just because I wanna always be in tune of what's happening out there and what players are liking. Whatever the discovery algorithm pops up, I'm always playing that, and it's wonderful to see the myriad of things that are happening that even have changed my way of thinking about game design, because now the rules are out of the window, like things that you thought were like givens of how they would work. Now they're not. Like I think this is game design 2.0 or 3.0. I don't know which number we are. But like, for example, like you see games that players that are super successful, that players are in it, and the games never end. Like they don't have, they're not over. There's not you win, right? Which is something that me being coming from traditional game design
Yeah.
and doing asymmetrical multiplayer. Okay, what's the winning condition of this match? There are no winning conditions. They're hanging like in recess in school, like just talking and doing this thing together.
That's so cool.
Right. So, and I think that as a game designer, for me, that's super interesting because it's another way about thinking about games as a social,
As a place,
Ooh,
right?
as a
Like it's a
place.
place to hang out. It's
as
not
a
just
context.
something you do, right? Like it's
Yeah, exactly. So and that's fun. That's fun, and with these UFN tools in which you can develop so efficiently, it's easier to take the risk because just a few days test doesn't work. Let's go for the next. It's not you need to bet your house and 3 years of your professional life just to see if the game is going to work. Here, you just know quickly. So it's wonderful. So just do. That's the advice for the talk. Just do. Make your games and
yeah.
do
So
it
that's the
quickly.
thing, right? Like especially when you're starting out, and we talk about this a lot on the Epic for Indies office hour, where it's kind of like if you this is your first time doing something, it's your risk. Nothing bad is going to happen, right? It's like you are doing this in a safe environment. You are wearing this, right? Like the security belts, right? You can crash the car. It's going to be fine if that island doesn't work. It's not like you spend even I don't know $100 to I don't know um like I think it's affordable to take those risks, right? Like you don't need a massive team, you don't need a lot of people, and you don't need to do something that is expensive. And I'm talking expensive in money, right? It's not just time and resources, right? It's actually I don't know. You are selling your car to do this. You don't have to, right? Like you can actually um, start with nothing, and that's I can't believe I'm in this stage of the industry, right, where anyone can make games, and at the same time I'm thinking like, well, it's never been more competitive, right? Like now there are people all over the world, right? Like I'm in Argentina, right? Like almost Antarctica, talking to you in Colombia, and making games for everyone to play everywhere, right? And it used to be a smaller industry, I think, on that other side, right? So um, as you were saying, I think there's an opportunity trusting in who you are and what you like, and going for the weird thing or the thing that nobody that thinks that is going to succeed, because there's going to be a lot of weirdos out there, right, that are going to love your game and
Yeah.
want to try it, right? Like I mean, it's never been more competitive, but it's never been more diverse, right? Like we have all sorts of games, and because we have all sorts of audiences, we have people from all over the world also playing those games, and there is no more this completely absurd belief that only teenage boys play games, right? Like now we know everyone is playing games, and they're playing it in so many different ways and different times of the day in different platforms and using different hardware. So um I think that's actually, it turns out to be, yeah, something good
It
out
is.
of all of this.
I agree. I
I mean, it's
think
scary. I understand that, right? But at the same time, it's like, okay, but you have a fighting chance. That's more than zero, right? That's and nothing bad can happen if you try. That's a plus, right?
yeah.
Um,
And that's a beautiful
so
thing I think Epic created, right? Like with this, with UEFN, which I think it's beautiful the thought that you bring, which is Epic created this safe space for you to be able to fail quickly and cheaply. Because failing is how you learn, not with your successes, by failing. And us having Havoc Hotel here today is just because a lot a series of fails in our past. So yeah, I think yeah, I think Epic is making this industry better by having this space. And we're super appreciated, and we are super grateful, and yeah, it's so beautiful that players can build games and also learn about how hard making a game is, which is something that always
yes.
been obscured in the industry for decades. People don't appreciate how hard it is to make a game, no matter how small it is, and it's important. Hug a developer. If you're not a developer, you're a gamer, and you meet a developer, hug them tightly and tell them everything is gonna be okay because we need because it's hard. It's hard. It's hard.
Yes, you can always give feedback. Just make it in a
Be
how
kind.
do you call it? Like a not positive, but at least um productive way, right? Like you just help us understand what we can do better.
Yeah.
Just
You want
don't
to
be brutal
understand.
because we are people, right? Like and sometimes yes, we are tired. We are
Yeah.
dehydrated. We've been working hard for a long time, and we made my bad choices. It's not even about these mistakes, right? Like sometimes you just need to try something and see how it works. Um, but let me see. We have more questions from the audience. Um, oh, here there is one related to the VR game, the Captain Toonhead.
Mhm.
How was the publication process for Captain Toonhead? Any advices? Any advice? I'm working on a VR game, but I'm a bit afraid of that part of the process.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you wanna publish something in VR, I would say approach Meta. Wonderful people. They are great. They wanna help you. They wanna help everybody create great VR games. Um,
If you don't know how to approach Meta, the Epic for Indies initiative just got Meta as a new partner, so we are going to tell you how very soon. I
there
just
you
wanted to
go.
make there a quick
Talk to
announcement.
Martina. Talk to Martina right
Come to
after you're
yes,
done.
come to EDC, come to the Discord. We will tell you
Yes.
how. Sorry,
Uh,
continue. So you were saying, step one, talk to Meta.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a great game that had a chance, Meta is gonna give you all the support in the world. They want you to succeed, so talk to them. Additionally, from that, concerning Captain Toonhead, because we didn't have any money, we didn't do a lot for promoting it, right? So whatever I tell you, I'm just making it up on the spot. I don't want to do that. Um, Focus on your game, talk to Meta. What you need is to be try to get highlighted. And if you have a good game, they're gonna help you get highlighted because Meta is not different from Fortnite in the sense that they have the ecosystem of players, right? And it's all about the platform and having the eyes, right? You having players being aware of you. There's also great communities of VR enthusiasts and streamers out there. The few we know is because they have approached us because of Captain Toonhead. They are really liked it, and when one of those guys liked it, they amplify your message because they are moved by your game. So it's yeah, maybe join our Discord or Tera Creators Discord, and that way, I mean, maybe we can get in contact and we let you know which VR channels or enthusiasts or groups had worked good for us, and maybe they'll help you promote your game. It's awesome. You're making
One note
beautiful games.
regarding that you need to be careful when you do that. I remember when we launched a Kickstarter campaign for one of our games. We were working on a point and click adventure, right? And this is like a very specific niche of people that love narrative driven games with a lot of dialogue and have a very specific pace to it. And it's like when you are going to talk to press or when you are going to talk to a streamer, what you need is someone that actually loves that kind of game you're making, right? So try and check out, right, like for the right match for your specific game, because sometimes you go and you just happen to get the contact of a streamer that it's like super popular and has millions of followers, but then hates I don't know, VR shooters, and then it's going to destroy your game. It's not going to help you at all. So that would be just an advice. Also, like you were talking about, like, well, learn more, know your audience. Well, the same thing when you are talking with press or influencers, try to do that homework too.
For some people, I felt, for some people, no, for some time, I felt like everybody in the UK hated our game, like Captain Toonhead, because all the reviews we got from British reviewers were like super bad, like they hated the humor and all that. And you as a developer, for some reason, well, you as a human being always focused on the things that are not good, but they're bad, and you over stress over them. And yeah, your reviewers are important because they can have a huge effect. At the end, being fair, there's this new British guy that approached us that loves our game, and that rekindled my love from the UK.
Oh, that's another thing, right? Like localization is not just translation, right? It's not like
True.
this is the line and I am translating it into another language. You need
Culture.
to actually adapt it to the culture you are bringing it to, right? Like it needs to have more context. It's not the same when you're working, I don't know, with the German audience, right? Than when you're talking, yes, with the British or even like the Latinos, right? Like we have different sensibilities and different, I think, like world around and references, right? And of course there are like international subjects and then there are like international like references everybody catches. But still, you need to also do that fine if you can afford it, right? Like if you can actually maybe find players from these regions where you are planning to launch and then do something with them, right? Like somehow test if the humor, right? If something is funny or if something is, I don't know, romantic or scary, right? Like it also maybe needing a little twitchy.
It's true. And listen to Martina. She knows a lot about humor. She worked with Conan O'Brien, so yeah, she knows.
Yeah.
She knows.
Yes, that's why yes, he chose me because I'm so fun. Another question: did you run into issues with discovery visibility and the reuse of code or assets between the versions of Havoc Hotel? And if so, how did you deal with that?
Actually, no problem. And the reason with that is because I mean all the Havoc hotels are ours, right? And they all are under our same account, right? So I mean there's fair usage or whatever of whatever we reuse with one with the other. That said, we improved our code base heavily between one Havoc hotel and the other because yeah, we reuse stuff because we like to be efficient when we build, but we also refactor a lot when we need to just to enable ourselves to expand the experience to the places where we need to expand to create a new version. But yeah, no, so far no problems. No.
And do you think you need to re-upload islands after you tweak some designs because of the first published boost, or do you think updates will also be seen and played?
We have found that updates in UEFN are super smooth. We love to update our islands. I wish we would do it more often, but we're working on that. We right now are working on building live ops teams because it's not about for us not only creating new games but also maintaining and
previous.
bettering the ones that we have. But yeah, so far right now, no, it has been super smooth. It's great. I love the process. It's super empowering. Me myself as the designer, I'm the one like pushing the reviews for the update. Which, by the way, we have a huge update in Havoc Hotel too today. I'm excited for that. It's the first time we are launching a new an alternate holiday map, and we're doing that today. So I'm super excited about that. But yeah, no, so far update has been great. There are some rules that we have put on ourselves about updates, and I'm gonna share about that. We try to not update on Fridays, and just that's for protecting ourselves as developers, right? Because if something went wrong in that update and we learn on a Saturday, we don't want to struggle and run to the office and fix it on a Saturday, right? Even though we gladly would do it because we care a lot about our games, but we also care a lot about our families and the time or developers
you need
need to
to
spend with them.
rest and recover, of
Yeah,
course.
you need to rest and recover. So we try not to update on Fridays because of that. Sometimes we have to, but when we do that, we do extra QA efforts just to make sure we are not gonna get the ding 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 during a Saturday, right? But apart from that, no. I mean, you build your own process around it, and it's super smooth. And I love the update process in UFN. You just put it up there. Wait, depending on the day, you wait you can wait from 30 minutes to 2 hours to 4 hours, depending on the day, to get an approval from Epic, and then it's you to turn it on, and it's awesome. It's great.
Another question about UEFN. In what state do you publish your islands? Do you fully finish the initial design, or how many changes do you plan for after the initial release?
Well, since Havoc Hotel 3, we implemented early access in our process, which means that not necessarily everything we wanted to build for that island is done, but it's enough for it to be a compelling and a coherent experience that we would like to try out there, right? We weren't sure when we published Havoc Hotel 3 if it's what's gonna work. And as a developers, we wanted to learn about that quickly, right? So there's a bunch of stuff that we couldn't finish because of complexity or time or whatever that wasn't there, but we already had a game. So we said, okay, let's implement early access, and we put it there. And with this, I'm gonna use this an excuse to talk about thumbnails. Thumbnails in UEFNs are super important. They are your main bridge of communication with your players out there. So change your thumbnail when you update. Let them know you made an update through your thumbnail. Let them know. We did this thing, which is a little bar on the bottom of the thumbnail, a red bar, where I type the most important thing that changed in the game. I do that myself, by the way. So there's still some indie stuff that is happening here. And it has been effective. Yeah. So yeah, communicate with your players through your thumbnail. That's important. Let them know that you don't just do the update. Use your Discord to let them know that you did it, but the thumbnail, change your thumbnail. Not only for communication, but also to test what thumbnails convert better with your players. How many clicks are you getting? All that. All that information is through the portal. So use the tools Epic is building for you.
Okay, so a couple of more, like two more questions before we wrap it up. We we have you here talking for like 2 hours. This
2 hours
is
already? Wow.
amazing. Thank you so much, LD.
Oh,
This
thank
this
you.
is
This
a
is fun.
lot.
This is fun.
Since session time for UEFN games is now nearly 20 hours, do you manage matchmaking through the game life cycle, or are there any gachas you are aware of related to a large quantity of players?
Um, no, we don't do anything like fancy on matchmaking. We feel like the matchmaking in Fortnite is super competent, and we love it. So we just set it up to how many players we want, and we just depending on the game, we let them join mid match or not. But that's it. I mean, no, we don't. Yeah, we haven't found any problems with the lifetime of the games. I think players self-correct that if they're entering a server that it's about to be eliminated, to not say killed. um, they just change servers. Oh, but there is an advice there. We learn that probably you already know this, but use the matchmaking portal, which is what you put inside an island for people to matchmake into a different island. Always put one that points to the same island it's in. Why? Because
Oh,
that's what players use to self-correct when they are a server that is about to die or they just want to change with the people they're playing. They use it to just go to a different server with your game, so you don't lose that player going outside
within
to
your
then
game, yeah. So
rematch.
it's
Yeah, so
nice.
that would be a little advice there. Yeah, that's something that we implemented in all islands. Yeah.
Okay, so final question. What was the most challenging part of creating this game?
Which one? Havoc Hotel?
The Havoc Hotel trip. Yeah.
The much challenging part? Uh, yeah, I might say the the uncertainty of not knowing if it's gonna work or not, because Havoc Hotel 2 was already out there, and we we just didn't know, right? So making it different enough for it to make sense to be a Havoc Hotel 3, but also similar enough to not alienate
Alienate.
or alienate, yeah, aliens or player base by making it too different and disappoint them by not providing them the experience they wanted. Yeah, finding that balance was was very difficult just because of the uncertainty of it. I mean, we listen a lot to our players. We interact with them in Discord. We think we 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 like to think that we know what they want, but you never know. So I think that might be it. Yeah, and also to invest a lot of effort of refactoring a lot of our systems to being able to expand them, because I mean you're always getting better in your craft, whatever you do. But in this case, as developers and specifically as programmers, and when you go to the next game, you see stuff that you created for the previous one, and you say, I want to build this better, right? And that took us a lot of time. And Havoc Hotel 3, when Havoc Hotel 2 took us the 4 weeks, Havoc Hotel 3 took us 2 months, right? So
Oh my.
we doubled again. And it was because of that. We need to refactor a lot of stuff just because we wanted to make a bigger game with the whole system. We added a new system of probabilities and with the soaps and all that, and how we distribute the rewards and weapons and how to make all that robust. Yeah, yeah, that's also demanding a lot of our time. So yeah, and that's my answer.
Hey, LD, muchas gracias. A huge thank you to our wonderful guest for today, and a huge thank you to you all watching as well. The show wouldn't be what it is without you, your questions and your time. And if any of you came in part way through the stream or wanted to rewatch a section, no worries. We will post all of our streams in video format that can be viewed on demand on both our Twitch and our YouTube channels of UE. You can also keep up with the latest news, shoutouts, and other cool information on all our socials at Unreal Engine. And if you haven't already, come join us at the Epic Developer Community, where we have our documentation, their tutorials from both the community and the Epic staff alike. We have forums and a lot more. I'm covering for Miss Tina today. I hope she recovers soon. But next week, I hope she'll be back. And we'll be chatting about the Dark Ruins sample by the Quixel team. So make sure to come back for that on Thursday, February 27th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time to hear more about that topic. Thank you so much again, LD, and happy developing, everyone. Have a good one.
Muchas gracias.
Bye-bye.
Gracias, Martina. Gracias, everybody. This has been so fun. Bye-bye.